Good evening. Welcome to the Springford Area School District Board meeting. Today is March 24th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Springford Board of School Directors believes the community has the right to bring before the board issues and concerns they may have about items on the agenda or about items in general which affect the district or their children. Because of this belief and philosophy, the board will schedule a time at the beginning and conclusion of every meeting to have an opportunity for community members to share their concerns with the board. At the start of the meeting, members from the public may comment on agenda items only. The school board will move through the meeting agenda, then at the end, when prompted, there will be a time for public comment. This meeting is being filmed to be broadcast on community cable channels and online. Individuals intending to make public comments should be aware that they are being filmed. Speakers will be asked to state their name and the area in which you reside before your comment.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Ms. Crew, could we please have a roll call?
Sure. In person tonight, we have Dr. Sharma, Mr. Lackey, Mrs. Weingarten, Mrs. Westwood, Mrs. Hermans, Mrs. Deerdorf, Dr. Wright, and Mrs. Goldsmith.
Thank you very much. And as far as announcements go, the board did meet in executive session prior to the start of today's meeting to talk about a legal matter as well as safety. Mr. Rizzo, anything on your end?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll move on to public to be heard, and this is on agenda items only. So if there's anyone that wishes to speak, please approach the podium with your name, township of residence, as well as the agenda item for which you're referencing. Seeing as though no one is approaching the podium, we will move on to our first presentation of the night and only presentation. We'll invite Mr. Miscavige, Athletic Director, to the podium to recognize our winter athletes.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us. First, we'd like to recognize our individual PAC champions from boys and girls swimming. Our girls, we have two of our four representatives tonight, Michelle Figueroa, Cece Bryant, and then Kaya Griffith and Abby Kohler were our PAC girls 200-meter free relay champions. On the boys' side, for our individual champions, we had Justin Delp, who's our PAC 500-meter freestyle champion. And Blaze Sadowski was a two-time champion, PAC 100-meter breaststroke and 100-meter butterfly. Then our boys team was the PAC team swimming and diving champions, represented tonight by freshman Ryan Ty, sophomore Declan Beal, sophomore Justin Delp, sophomore Clayton Heinzman, sophomore Jack Herpel, juniors Jake Comp and Trevor Comp, junior John Starcevic, seniors Jack Miscavige, Nate Reagan, and Blaze Sadowski. And hopefully we'll be back for some in the spring. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miscavige. And again, congratulations to all the students and again to their families for supporting them in those endeavors. Much appreciated and something to be celebrated. Okay. All right, so we'll give it a minute as people leave the room. And we'll move on to our board and committee reports, starting with our MCIU report. Dr. Wright.
We did not have a meeting since the last time. Our meeting is this Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. Moving on, Mrs. Weingarten, the Western Montgomery Career and Technology Center.
Thank you. The Western Montgomery Career and Technology Center, JOC, met on March 3rd. We had presentations from the Skills USA District Award winners. Miss Samantha Godshall participated in the Skills USA District competitions and won 3rd place in welding. She welded a vertical 3G double with back and strip. I don't know what that is, but I was so impressed by her winning 3rd place in a highly competitive field. She had also attended the Skills Over Stereotypes event to promote the welding program, and I think it's pretty exciting to see a young woman showcasing her incredible skills there. We also had an update on the Western Tech Center goals, and excuse me, Mr. Livingood met with Gilbert Architects regarding a feasibility study, and a lot of this conversation goes around what's possible. As you know, we have a lot more students apply for these programs that can actually fit into the program, so we end up turning down a number of students. So we're looking at the space and seeing what is possible there. Mr. Livingood will include updates on expansion ideas and considerations next month. We're also invited to the April 9th co-op luncheon. This is an invitation to all of our board members. You should have gotten an invitation to that. And let's see, we had some administrative reports. Representative Shuren spent 4 hours at the end of February touring the facility. Mr. Livingood was recently appointed to the Workforce Development Board. This is the first CTE director to sit on that board, so it's pretty impressive for Mr. Livingood and the JOC. We were also featured in the American Welding Society magazine, so we'll get a copy of that article to all of you once we get a copy of it. Let's see. And they had an incredible turnout to the Skills Over Stereotypes event. I think it was the end of February. 115 sixth graders attended 2 programs. So that's across the 3 participating high schools. Another update, currently we have 40 students out on co-op and another 5 students shadowing the workforce. Those co-op programs are a huge part of what helps place these students into jobs after they graduate. It's very, very impressive. Right now, we have 280 applicants for the Tech Center next year. The deadline for applications is April 15th, and there are 190 spots available. So you can see with those numbers, looking at the expansion becomes really important. Let's see. Some important dates. We have the HOSA Leadership Conference, March 26th through 28th. We have the state competitions for Skills USA, April 2nd through 4th. And our next JOC meeting is at 5 p.m. on Zoom on April 7th. And as I mentioned, the co-op banquet is at noon on April 9th. And that concludes my report.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Weingarten. And again, just to go along with that, mention the co-op banquet. You did get an invitation today to it formally, so looking forward to seeing you all there. Any questions for Mrs. Weingarten? Okay, moving on, Mrs. Westwood, Legislative Committee.
Good evening. The Legislative Committee met on March 5th at 6 p.m. We were joined for the first half of the meeting by Lisa Walter, who is the Chief of Staff for Senator Tracy Pennycook, and she shared that the state budget hearings at this time, obviously this is passed, we're just finishing up, and that the Senator is still assessing where revenue will come from the budget requests. However, she did share that the Senator will be supporting legislation in 2 specific areas. One was raising reading and math scores. That is something that we've talked about at this table quite a bit, so I was happy to hear this. One for reading. This is based on a Mississippi study that students be held in third grade until they meet the required benchmarks. For math, the senator will be co-sponsoring the legislation with Senator Lisa Biscola from Bethlehem. There weren't a lot of details shared about that yet, so stay tuned. Hopefully we'll hear more soon. Committee members shared concerns about the negative impact later in life of holding students back. Additionally, committee members questioned whether there are studies that show the impact on test scores as a result of cyber charter schools. We know cyber charter test scores on average are much lower than public schools, but there are studies that show what the basic existence of cyber charter schools and their draw on public resources have on test scores. Ms. Walter confirmed that she would investigate this. Second area was cyber charter reform. We've talked about that at this table as well. This was a hot topic last year too. Ms. Walter confirmed that the senator supports changing how the cyber charter schools are funded. Additionally, committee members advocated for additional support for CTEs, so that echoes a bit of what Mrs. Weingarten said, which the senator has previously been very supportive of, and support for facilities management, so things like HVAC and roofs. The topic of how the school safety grants and the period products are budgeted for was also discussed, with the group expressing concern regarding competitiveness for some funds and the lack of ability to plan when the funds are not assured until later in the year. Couple of quick updates, the legislative breakfast, which I think I mentioned in our last update. We've invited Senator Maria Collette, Representative Donna Shuren to take part in a panel discussion at this year's breakfast. Additionally, superintendents from Abington, Norristown, and Springfield will be sharing remarks, and there will be a press conference after the event. Lastly, there was an update on the Student for Voices for Education program that the MCIU has been doing in partnership with Children's First. As a result of this discussion, there will be an invitation for Brandon Longer from the MCIU to join our next meeting in April, so share updates on that. Our next meeting is scheduled on April 2nd at 7 p.m. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Westwood. Mrs. Goldsmith, PSBA.
So just a couple updates. One, I will be forwarding to Ms. Deardorff and Ms. Hermans. PSBA announced the 2025 Board Officer Exchange Connect Learn series that allows the president and vice president to participate in Zooms, I believe, or Teams, where you're able to connect with other presidents and vice presidents across the Pennsylvania. The other thing that I'll be forwarding to the full board is a webinar that PSBA is offering, again, free, for the Ethics Act and how to stay out of the papers and out of trouble is actually the title, which I think is useful. The other thing PSBA that I'll be forwarding is the 9th Annual State of Education Report was just released, PSBA's report, so I'll be forwarding that so that all board members have an opportunity to review. And lastly, May 13th has been, because we talked about this last time, we didn't have an identified date, but now May 13th has been identified as the PSBA advocacy date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions for Mrs. Goldsmith? Okay, Mr. Lackey, American Legion update.
Yep. Spring City American Legion Baseball met on Thursday, February 27th. There were a few items I wanted to bring back to the board. The first is that the Legion will be adding 2 teams this year, bringing the total number of teams to 8. There are league tryouts taking place on March 29th and 30th. If you're interested in signing up for any of these tryouts, you can check out the Spring City American Legion Baseball page on the leaguelineup.com website. The Legion will also be hosting a regional tournament this July right here in our Rams Stadium. This tournament will be a total of 14 games taking place over a span of 5 days. And lastly, planning has begun to put up the new outfield signs. The next meeting will be this Thursday, March 27th. And that concludes my update. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything for Mr. Lackey? Okay, we'll move on to Superintendent report.
Thank you. Just a couple of brief things. First of all, Roundup at the Register. We have a few days left to Roundup at the Register. Springford is proud to participate in the Giant Feeding School Kids initiative. Through March 31st, you can round up at the Register to support our school district's efforts to eliminate childhood hunger. Springford received just about $8,500 last year through this initiative to support our students. Funds from this program were applied to outstanding food service balances. Thank you to all those who rounded up, and thank you, Giant, for supporting our students. Stop by Giant on Main Street in Royersford to round up at the Register and support Springford schools through March 31st. Next Indoor percussion, we honored our swimmers a little bit ago. Our indoor color guard and indoor percussion had a great weekend, performing at WGI regional events this weekend, competing against groups from Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. Most notably, our indoor percussion and concert percussion groups both won first place. And while this may seem just like a continuation of last year's percussion success, it is important to note that they were promoted this year to the Scholastic Open Class Division. Despite this heightened level of competition, their score from this weekend ranked them third in the country. Congratulations to the coaches and the musicians for a job well done. And clap for them. Yep. Lastly, congratulations for our retirees. We have two to announce. Ellen Daw, Guidance Secretary at the 8th Grade Center with over 19 years of service at Springford, and Denise Whitmore, HVAC Control Specialist with the Maintenance Department with approximately 30 years of service with Springford. Combined, those two have served our Springford community for almost 50 years, and we thank them for that. Thank you. That's my announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Rizzo, and certainly we wish our retirees the best. Mr. Fitzgerald, do you have a solicitor's report tonight?
Just very briefly, since we met last week, just one tidbit of information for the board's consideration. And this was something that we had discussed a number of months ago surrounding special education eligibility for students who would age out potentially at the age of 22. As you know, there is litigation going on at the Supreme Court surrounding previous changes to the regulations by the department about a year and a half ago. Last week, the Department of Education introduced rulemaking surrounding the eligibility requirements, and it's effectively what they had sought to do a year and a half ago surrounding a child's eligibility for services, really through that till that 22nd year. What's going to be the interesting issue is whether rulemaking can be accomplished when it would run afoul with the statute itself in terms of who is eligible under state law for services. So I think while I believe PDE has to do it through rulemaking, it is unclear whether we need statutory changes to accomplish it. So more to come on that, but that process has begun.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Fitzgerald? Okay. So then we will move on to the voting portion of our meeting. As a reminder for the community, the voting portion of the meeting is actually covered in our work session last week, so we did have a lot of questions and conversations with regards to these action items, but if there is any additional questions or comments, feel free to separate it and ask. So moving on to section 5, letters A and B. Do I have a motion? So moved. Is there a second? Second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to section 6, personnel, letters A through N. I'll give you a moment to look at it and see if you want to separate anything. Do I have a motion? So moved. A second? Second. Any questions or discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to finance, section 7, letters A through L. Do I have a motion? So moved. Is there a second? Second. Questions and discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to property, section 8, letters A through D.
Can we pull out letters C and D for voting purposes only?
You want to pull C and D for voting purposes?
Yep.
Sure. Okay, any others? Okay, so let's start with section 8, letters A and B. Do I have a motion? So moved. Is there a second? Second. Questions and discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Mrs. Goldsmith, can I take them together, or would you prefer them separate? You can take them together. Okay. So on the motion next is Section 8 property, letters C and D. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, opposed.
Okay. So that motion carries 6-2. Okay. Moving on to programming and curriculum. And we have a lot here, letters A through I. And as we talked about last week, many of these, maybe with the exception of the last two, are tied to the state structured literacy grant from Senate District 44. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
I just want to say thank you again to Senate District 44 for this very generous grant, and it's not the first one, so just very appreciative of what it will do for our students.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to Section 10, Other Business. We're looking at letters B through F. A is a first read. Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Okay. So that moves on away from the voting portion of our meeting, and now we have one discussion item on the agenda, and that is school safety. And so this is an agenda item that I specifically put on the agenda, asked for it to be on the agenda for this meeting. So as the community may know, last week there was an incident at Royersford Elementary on Sunday evening where two underage individuals entered the building and vandalized certain spaces, some classrooms, hallways, in addition to the cafeteria. So naturally, an incident like this raises concern in the community, and we did hear from families both via email and likewise some families that chose to come to the podium last week and make public comment. And as if anyone did watch the meeting, you saw that I, at the end of public comment, directed them to Mr. Rizzo and administration because while the board would love to sit here and answer the questions, we do understand our role as governance and day-to-day management of the district is in the purview of our administrators. And so Mr. Rizzo did meet with those individuals and have a conversation after last week's meeting. So as part of the district response to the event last week, as communicated in the announcement section and then furthermore later in the week through emails to families and in Mr. Rizzo's weekly update, there was a comprehensive safety assessment done. In particular, we had our school police working with local law enforcement. There was an ongoing investigation. We had to check and clear the buildings to ensure that it was safe for our staff to return, which they did as of 2 p.m. on Monday. And subsequently, our students returned to the building the following day. And I want to thank our police for remaining present at Royersford Elementary throughout this week, in part, to ensure student safety and staff safety, but also to give our community some peace of mind and to have that presence there. So as I mentioned, the students returned to the buildings on Tuesday, and some families did decide to have their students remain at home, which, as a parent myself, is a very personal decision and one that every family is entitled to make. So that is absolutely something that, like I said, is a fair point and needs to be a personal decision. With that said, I do think that there is something that needs to be addressed with regards to the narrative that was circulating on social media out there with regards to faulty doors at Royersford Elementary. And this narrative went so far online as to state that doors were, quote unquote, able to be accessed after our board meeting on Monday and were found to be, quote, 95%, to be able to get 95% of the way open and to get a hand in there. And so I've seen a lot of stuff, which is what prompted me to ultimately ask for this to be an agenda item. And I do want to put this community's mind at ease and really hopefully clarify the misinformation that's out there. So at this time, I'm going to ask Mr. David Boyer, our Chief of Police, to come to the podium to share what he can in terms of what was facilitated last week.
Hello, everybody. Safety and security is obviously my highest priority here at the school district and with the school board and whatnot. The school board and administration have been extremely supportive of our safety culture that we've been trying to change for the last 7 years and our security initiatives with grants and all the things we're putting into place. Obviously, on the evening of March 16th, we had an incident that happened at Royersford Elementary, as Ms. Herman said. Within the first 7 minutes, once we got on scene, which was about 5 minutes after the custodian rang it in, we were able to identify the two actors, and now both of those perpetrators are facing criminal charges. I just want to bring to the attention of everybody, we did have a security and safety assessment done through PCCD grant money back in November 7th through December 17th of 2024. In that assessment, we had a company called Largo Consultants on behalf of Cardinal Point Home Security come here, and they did an assessment on all of our schools except for Spring City, which is under construction right now. Part of that assessment is they look at all the doors, all of our security processes, our protocols, and make sure that we're in criteria with what PCCD standard is. When they went through all that, we were either partially in the standard or we were fully in the standard. There wasn't any situations where we were not in the standard. So again, we're trying to put together a situation of all the low-hanging fruit and start to correct those things as we went. So again, this is an ongoing process that we do anyway before this incident even occurred. Since the discovery of that incident on March 16th, the district has taken these actions and immediate actions right now. Our facilities department has directed Mr. Pellegrin to inspect all the external doors at all our schools. That has been completed. All the doors were inspected for security and functionality by Springford facilities personnel. Mr. Pellegrin immediately contacted Quality Door Services, which is a leader in the industry for door safety and security, and they went to Royersford Elementary School on Thursday the 20th. QDS, Quality Door Assurance, right, checked those exterior doors at elementary school, all 19 of them. Some doors were adjusted as whatever was needed to be found was done and corrected. On Friday the 21st, Mr. Pellegrin, Ben Galati from Largo Consultants, and Paul Laub from the Code Enforcement from Royersford Borough, and Chief of Police Scott Fennelly all met me at Royersford Elementary, and again, we reviewed all the doors to make sure they worked and in proper order. The two officials from from Royersford Borough were satisfied with the progress that we had made. Mr. Galati inspected all the exterior doors, the interior vestibule doors, and office doors, and found the doors were in working order and to follow the safety and security criteria established from PCCD, which is the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. We follow the standards. They're the ones who put together Act 44, which takes care of all safety and security. Mr. Laub and Chief Fennelly both were satisfied at the end of this inspection, which took approximately 2 hours. Largo Consultants then recommended Royersford Elementary School interior lobby doors and interior vestibule doors always be secured. So again, Mr. Pellegrin and facilities are in the process of securing the vestibule lobby doors and adding some other features to let staff get in and out while the doors are still locked. So I'd like to close with this. Just a reminder to the community, extremely challenging to secure any large unoccupied structure after hours of operation. I fully understand some parents' fear in this situation. I want you to know that the law enforcement was there very quickly and rapidly, and again, searched this entire place. And I want to emphasize that with our camera system and some of the things we have in place, we were able to solve this very quickly and understand that the two people that did this were in and out and were not in the building when we checked it out. Again, I'd like to finish up with Safety and security is our priority and our mission, and I'd like to thank some folks here, Dr. Carboy for just being a fantastic leader through this whole thing and communicating all this, Chief Fennelly from Royersford Borough, and all the police officers that showed up there very rapidly, because again, they don't know what they have until they check it out. They're very concerned with our safety and security. Mr. Loud from Code Enforcement, again, one phone call and he was there for me. Mr. Ben Galati from Largo Consultants, again, came out very rapidly within his schedule to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to be in compliance and to be safe. All the facility staffs for their quick change. I mean, I was there at that morning. I was very surprised with the progress they were able to make in a very short amount of time. Our tech support staff, again, we had a lot of things that were destroyed. They were replaced immediately. There was a plan in place. Dr. Hilt took care of that very rapidly. And finally, I want to thank one of my officers. His name's Jason Karopolis, who took care of the video footage for that night. We were able to rapidly identify who these two persons were, how far they went without the school, and there wasn't really any doubt by the time I got there that this was over and done with. Again, we're taking every step we can to make it safe and secure. Again, that's our priority. And I'd like to thank the board for the support they've given us for this week. It's been a difficult week.
Thank you, Chief. Additionally, I would like to defer it to Mr. Pellegrin, who's our Director of Facilities in the back, because in addition to the police presence and all other efforts, I know our Facilities Department took steps not just to focus on Royersford Elementary, but really the district at large.
Thank you. And what I'd like to add to this whole situation that happened this last week was the district basically has 420 doors throughout the entire school district. The maintenance department, after this event, went to every door in the entire district, and every door was secured. So I just think that's something, some people don't realize how many doors we actually have throughout the district, but that's the count of doors that we have to maintain, just about every day.
Thank you, Mr. Pellegrin. So let me be clear that any community member that wrote in and/or approached that podium to speak was not only encouraged by Mr. Rizzo to speak directly with our Chief of Police, but also was encouraged by me to speak with our Chief of Police. And for whatever reason, they declined. So let me be very clear. There are no faulty doors at Royersford Elementary. In fact, this board has seen the video footage of the individual who making this claim going to every door at Royersford Elementary and incessantly pulling on the doorknobs and the door handles, claiming that they are to be opened, or they did open, when in fact they did not. So we know for a fact that that is purely lies for whatever reason. And if I seem a little bit frustrated, please forgive me, because, I think it's pretty disheartening that this board, and me knowing who is sitting at this table, from our administrators to our board members, I may not always disagree, or I may not always agree with you. I think you all know I disagree with you a lot. But there's one thing that I don't doubt, which is this board's commitment to student safety and the well-being of our kids. Period, end of story. I'm also particularly frustrated because over the weekend, we have been notified that some board members have been targeted. And I am not talking about being jeered at while I go buy a screen protector for my daughter at Best Buy this weekend, which happened and was a great learning moment for her in terms of what is inappropriate adult behavior. I'm actually talking about our board members' privacy being violated. And that angers me. And so I'm going to defer to Mrs. Westwood to share her story.
Good evening. The same community member that Mrs. Hermans previously mentioned that attempted to pull the doors at Royersford Elementary after our board meeting last week sent the board multiple emails and was provided by me, an individual, for a forum for a dialogue with this individual. So I offered to speak to him by phone. This member of the community took advantage of my kindness and, without my knowledge, taped our entire phone conversation and distributed it to members of the Royersford PTO. I know members of the community have asked for more dialogue with our board, and when I tried to provide this, my privacy was violated and my trust was broken. regardless of my role as an elected official, I am still entitled to the same legal protections of anyone else. And this unauthorized recording was unethical and it was wrong. As the community may know, wiretapping is a felony in the state of Pennsylvania, and this issue has been reported to the authorities, and a cease and desist has been issued to this individual. And despite this incident, I remain committed to serving my community and having open and honest dialogue with the public.
Thank you, Mrs. Westwood. I know that wasn't easy. As she stated, wiretapping is a felony, and so is continuing to listen to it and circulate it. Anyone who does that is complicit. So I want to thank you for sharing your story, because I know it wasn't easy. With that said, I do want to reiterate that to the community, there is a chain of command. If you have questions, you go to your building administrator, you go to the superintendent, and then you go to the board. There is a chain of command, and if you're not getting the answers that you want when you want them, there may very well be a good reason for that. It could be that there's an ongoing police investigation. It could be that we're dealing with minors, and regardless of the situation, we are still bound to confidentiality, and we are still bound to FERPA, the Privacy Act. Or lastly, it could be that safety and security, which our police officers in the back here have been very forthcoming to be able to share what they can. Safety and security is an executive session privileged topic. So while I understand that, especially in the case of this individual who was pressing Mrs. Westwood for details on everything that we do to divulge how we approach safety and security in the district, the fact of the matter is, by doing that, we actually put our students at greater risk. Right? In that information in the hand of bad actors actually puts our students at greater risk. So why am I sharing all this? And I'll just summarize. Because while I know the actions of a few do not reflect the amazing families that we have in our Spring-Ford community, I want everyone to understand that social media is not the answer. Getting your information second-handed and third-handed is not the answer. Because I see what's out there, right? I have Facebook, I have Instagram, and what I normally see is inaccurate and incomplete information, and sometimes I'm even questioning if it's actually with the intent to deceive. So if you have questions, please follow the chain of command. Come to the source. If you're not getting answers from the building principal, go to Mr. Rizzo. If you're not getting answers from Mr. Rizzo, come to us as a board. The board may not have the answers, and we may actually decide to defer it back to Mr. Rizzo or administration, because different from board members of the past, we do understand the role of the board in terms of governance versus day-to-day management. And we want to make sure we get you to the right people who can give you the right information. So with that said, I'm done. Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving on to section 12, informational items, donation acceptance. I want to thank the Evans Elementary Mr. John Johnson, who is donating to our Evans Elementary RamQuest program. And as you can see here, that different items, 3D printer, anti-vibration feet, and all that goes along with it. So as we recognized you last week, I'll recognize you again. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your generous donation to Evans Elementary. Okay. And moving on to board comment. Okay, with that said, we'll move on to public comment. So if there's anyone that wishes to speak, please approach the podium with your name and township of residence.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Okay. So good evening. Thank you for the time. So I believe I have about 3 minutes, so I'm going to make it quick. So I'm here representing the White Springs community and we have some members of the community here in the audience today
Sir,
as well.
can you just state your name and?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And,
My name is...
And where you live in the community?
Okay.
And you can start, please start the time over.
Okay. Hi, my name is Bola Ajayi, and I live within the within Springford, but in the White Springs community. So just for reference, the White Springs community is within walking distance of the Providence Town Center. So I'm actually here representing that community. So just for reference, the community is relatively new. It was starting to be built around 2016 or so, and a lot of the residents there are new to the community, but have been there since that time. That community has about 110 houses, of which about 50 of the residents, or 50 school-aged children are in that residence. And many of them, about 40 or so at any given time during the morning or the afternoon, is taking the bus stop. That bus stop is located on Arcola Road. So as you know, it's a pretty busy road. There's a roundabout, also sometimes called a radial, and the bus stop is just after the radial. Recently, the White Springs community had been just recently finished. Toll Brothers was the contractor that did that. Many of us found out that the main road that we usually wait with the kids is a fire lane. So when there's inclement weather or otherwise you would want to have your kids sort of driven to the bus stop for many reasons, you can't just keep your car there. Recently, police have told us, hey, you can't have your car there. We have a couple of reasons why the bus stop, per that issue, is not the right place for the bus stop. Again, there's about 40 school-aged children taking the bus at any given time. You may see dozens, literally, of kids that are waiting by the bus stop on that busy road. Very high traffic, safety concerns for the kids themselves as they are waiting for the bus stop, and that's why one of the reasons why we want parents there. We have the fire lane restrictions, so as I said, if there's inclement weather or any issues, you can't just keep your car there with the kids securely inside until the bus comes. As we mentioned, a large number of students there, and the community is definitely growing. And so our petition, we actually have a petition here signed by most of the residents in White Springs to actually see if we can move the bus stop to somewhere within the residence. I forgot to bring up with me, I have a little poster that kind of shows you where the bus stop is in Arcola Road, but what you'll see is that where it is relative to where the high traffic area is, there's a really big concern there. Thank you. Here's the community. Arcola Road is right here, and the bus stop is
Thank you, sir.
just there. Thank you.
So I will just say that because this is, again, an issue that would be in the purview of our superintendent, Mr. Rizzo will be in touch with you tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you need any of my information?
I will need, yes.
We'll get it from you.
Yes, I'll need your contact information afterwards.
All right, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mary Jo McNamara, Limerick, Pennsylvania. Mrs. Westwood, I'm sorry that you had to experience what you experienced. That makes me really sad to hear, and that your privacy was violated, and that someone took advantage of you by doing something like that and then went ahead and shared it socially. That's not how we can get things done, right? So I have a question, and maybe somebody can direct me. For members of the community that no longer have children in the school district but have questions, is the chain of command to go to the principal of the school where incidents are, like what if it's not a principal of a school? So that kind of a question, and maybe this is just food for thought, I don't know. Perhaps we can bring back some kind of Q&A through the board meetings or working sessions or committee meetings. I know it doesn't have to go in the days of COVID where it was a little bit extreme. And when and how do we know what happened at the elementary school? I can only assume that the door was open. I don't know, I'm just curious. And does the community know how much damage was actually done in the school? So I'm going to kind of leave it there. I know you guys don't typically respond, but thank you.
Thank you. And you are correct that public comment is not a Q&A, as there's been a longstanding policy with Policy 903, public participation at meetings. However, I would say that that is a dialogue that Mr. Rizzo can have with you. So, Mr. Rizzo, feel free to reach out to Ms. McNamara. Okay, thank you.
Can I say one thing?
Not right now.
No.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sandeep Khurana. I live in Upper Providence. And I'm here to talk about busing situation and rural transportation. Whether we answer any questions or not, but I just want to share my frustration with the system. Just for reference and context, I have two kids. One just started Oaks Elementary in kindergarten, and one who's gone through the Oaks Elementary program to now in 5th grade center. And this is my first time here. So you can imagine like frustration's taken some time to build up. I don't see why busing is treated as rocket science and why it is not, where school cannot fix busing and notifications. There's three major issues with this. Buses not coming on time. Second, notifications not getting on time. We get a notification 10 minutes standing at the bus stop that your bus is 10 minutes late. And we don't know if it's from the original time or it's the time now. And then the bus comes 20 minutes late after that. Today's an example. The bus, we got a message the bus is 10 minutes late, but the bus was actually 22 minutes late. 1 p.m. the kindergarten starts, p.m. kindergarten. The bus picked up my daughter at 1:01 or 1:02 p.m. We're already dealing with a full school and half-day kindergarten programs, which are not helpful anyways to begin with. But on top of that, if we have to stand at the bus stops with the kids, and kindergartners, we cannot leave them by themselves. If I have to stand 30 minutes before the bus comes and 30 minutes when the school ends, that's an hour of me standing at the bus stops. And then the notifications don't help at all. And when you call transportation, they brush you off as if it's not their problem. They don't give you straight answers. They don't get back to you. There's no response there. On top of that, I want to say this because we are I feel like we have enough time to fix the situation before the next school year starts. And I think this is the time to start thinking about it and planning about it because this is getting literally out of control. And the lack of accountability in general with the transportation in school, because I've been told multiple times that you have to be at the bus stop 10 minutes prior. So freezing temperatures, rain like this morning, we get there 10 minutes early. But if the bus comes early, they don't stop, they don't wait. So I come 10 minutes early, the bus comes 20 minutes late, that's 30 minutes of us standing. So at some point, I feel like the system of kids or students to show up at bus stop 10 minutes early is sort of us washing our hands off our accountability that yes, we will enforce busing to be on time.
Oh, okay, thank you. We've
And
hit 3
then-
minutes.
What's that?
We've hit the 3-minute limit.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you for hearing me out.
Similarly, if Mr. Rizzo can get your information, he can reach out and have that
All right,
conversation
sounds
with
good.
you.
Thank you. I'll be here.
Okay. Anyone else that would like to make public comment?
Hi, I'm Stephen Wagner. I live in Montclair. I was just curious. I know you guys have the new welcoming program that you're for students that may have questionable immigration status. My concern is that there are currently outbreaks of different diseases and stuff from populations that maybe are not vaccinated. Are we requiring all students that are coming to the school to be vaccinated before they come to the school? It's just a concern with the current disease outbreaks. Yeah. So that's all I had to say. And I appreciate how hard you guys work too. You got a lot of difficult decisions to make. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Can you talk about the same thing that somebody else just mentioned?
We have this young lady that is approaching the podium. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Adrienne McGar. I am the librarian at the Royersford Free Public Library. You all know who I am. It's wonderful to see everyone again. I just have 3 points about what the library is doing going into spring and summer. First of all, we've never done this before, but we are putting out an all-call for volunteers, both teenagers and adults. You need to be 14 to volunteer at the library, but if you're looking to give back, we really need program assistance during the summer. We have sometimes over 200 people that come to our events. We would really love some people that want to come and help us manage the crowd. So any sort of help would be wonderful. Second of all, we are partnering with Longwood Gardens. If anyone has ever been there, it's absolutely lovely. We are doing a terrarium program on April 12th, partnering with Cozy Quarters Decor. We will be doing a program for children ages 5 to 11, pretty much as long as they can handle a pot without dropping it, you're welcome to come. It is registration, it's the first time we'll be doing it, and it's just to partner with Longwood's ongoing stretch to try to get people to go outside and enjoy their public gardens. And then last thing, summer reading's coming up. It starts on June 9th this year, which is right after Springford finishes school. The theme this year is Color Our World, which promotes the way that arts enrich our lives. And the programs are going to be in the area of painting and drawing, as well as artwork that people don't always think about, like textiles. So please come sign up, and feel free to ask me any questions if you have any. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Barry Shefsky. I also live at 12 Iron Hill Way in Collegeville in White Providence and Spring. And I just want to talk about the bus stop there. It's on Arcola Road, basically, on the corner. Now, I was the very first house in the whole development 13 years ago. I've seen it changes as more and more people come there. The biggest change is on Arcola Road. People come flying up that road. When I first moved there, I saw cars going 50, 60 miles an hour on that stretch. And the police were always there. Now I never see police. They put up a monitor there that lets you know you're going too fast or thank you for driving the speed limit. And I stand there and I see cars going 50, 65 miles an hour, and the machine reports it. It's very dangerous for the kids to go to that bus stop. Your elementary school kids, they get sidetracked. One of them steps out accidentally on the street going after something, a piece of paper that flies out of their hands, a book. It's very easy, and there's almost been several accidents that I've noticed there. And I really think the bus stop should be moved inside the development. The development is 2 circles. Even if we just had 1 stop, there's a parking area by one of the circles. The bus would come in, and it would only take them, except for picking up the kids, it would only be about an extra minute or 2 for them to drive around that circle. They wouldn't even have to back up. They'd have no issues. They'd pull in the entranceway. It's very wide, and the turn is very wide. It's 28 feet there for the bus to turn. They could stop right there as soon as they come in. And again, there's plenty of room. It wouldn't have to back up. It could just continue to go around the circle and right out the exit, right where it came in at. I think it's something that should definitely be considered, because someday we're going to have a child there gets very seriously injured. So I just want you all to realize that. I went to the superintendent myself for the buses, and she refused to even think of moving the bus. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Motion to adjourn?